When it comes to RRSP, I bet a lot of people will only think about whether if it makes sense to contribute into RRSP, or where should we invest the RRSP. But there's one question we rarely think about. What happens to my RRSP when I'm retired? Hi guys, this is Thomas, your trusted advisor here. If you want to know if you're on the right track for planning your retirement, make sure you stay until the end as there are plenty of information that will be useful to you. Because after all, everyone wants to be comfortable and secure when they retired. So you start putting your money into an RRSP account. Then what? In this video, I'll be answering that very question. We'll talk about rules and taxes when we make RRSP withdrawal. I will also explain what an RRIF conversion is, and how will the government benefits such as OA security will be affected. And lastly, what happened to your RRSP when you pass away. So let's jump in. For those of you who are not entirely sure how RRSP works, let's do a quick RRSP 101. Registered Retirement Saving Plan was first introduced in 1957, but it wasn't that popular until the 1990s. Why? Two reasons. Since the 90s, the interest rate has been all-time low, meaning those guaranteed pension and term deposits are not performing. Also, the Canadian government increased the RRSP contribution room to 18% of the previous year's income, and it will be indexed every year. With Canadians' long life expectancy and low interest rate environment, the government, as well as the employers, cannot fully take care of the employees' retirement life. It's up to the employees to also do savings for their future. The idea behind the RRSP is that once you put the money into the account, your income on paper will be subtracted accordingly, and therefore you pay less taxes, and for most of the employees, that also means getting more tax return for that year. You pay less tax now and you save for the future. Sounds like a win-win plan. Fast forward, the average expected age for retirement is usually 65. For many of you, this is when you might begin to withdraw from your RRSP. In fact, you're able to withdraw from your RRSP anytime that you want, as long as it isn't in a lock-in account. However, there are a couple things you need to pay attention when you make a withdrawal. Every dollar that you withdraw from the RRSP will be subjected to income tax 100%. For example, if you make $50,000 this year for income and withdraw $5,000 from RRSP, your total income this year is now $55,000. Beware that the added income from the RRSP withdrawal might push your income to a higher tax bracket. Next is the withholding tax. Because CRA always wants to make sure you don't own their money, CRA will pre-charge the tax on your RRSP withdrawal. For Canadian residents, with the exception of Quebec, the withholding tax is outlined as follows. If you withdraw $5,000 or less, it's 10%. Between $5,001 to $15,000 is 20%. And if you withdraw more than $15,000, it's 30%. Keep in mind the withholding tax may not be enough to account for the taxes you own in a higher tax bracket, so it's important to consult the right professionals before you make any big withdrawal. For non-residents of Canada, the withholding tax is 25% unless it's reduced by treaty. You can find more information about taxes on the CRA website. Just click the link in the description box below. With that being said, you may ask, "Hey Thomas, since I have other income such as my tax-free saving, my rental property, and my CPP and OAS, can I just not touch the money in RRSP then?" Well, sorry, bad news. Your RRSP account will not be available forever. When you reach the age of 71, you'll be required to transfer your RRSP to an RRIF account, Registered Retirement Income Fund. Think of this account as in the opposite of RRSP. 1. You will not be able to make any further contribution to this account once it's set up. And 2. You're required to withdraw a minimum amount each year, and the minimum amount will increase as you age. It's worthy to note that in 2020, due to the COVID-19, the minimum required withdrawal amount has been reduced by 25%. This 25% reduction is applied to the entire 2020 withdrawal amount. For example, let's say your RRIF minimum amount before the reduction is $12,000 for the year. The new minimum for the 2020 year will be $9,000. What's the advantage then? Mainly, if you don't want to withdraw that much money, you now have the option not to. You can find more information on the 2020 reduction on the CRA website. A link to the relevant webpage is in the description box below as well. The big idea for the RRIF withdrawal is that you won't be charged a withholding tax if you stay at the minimum annual amount. Needless to say, withholding tax will apply to the amount in excess of the minimum annual withdrawal requirements. And same as RSP, any amount withdrawn from your RRIF will be considered as income and will be taxed according to your tax bracket. So how do the government benefits play a part in all of this? Besides your RSP and RRIF income, you will also be able to start collecting the government benefits such as the OAS and the GIS at age 65. But remember, as I mentioned that in the previous videos, your eligibility for both the OAS and the GIS will depend on your annual income. So you can see the more that you withdraw from the RSP after age 65, the less you may be eligible to collect OAS and GIS. And lastly, what happens to my RSP or RRIF when I died? On death, the RSP and the RRIF will be terminated, and the entire amount in these accounts will be considered as your last year income and therefore fully taxable. For example, Henry has $500,000 in the RSP account. Once he passes away, the entire $500K will be considered as his last year income, and therefore he is in the highest tax bracket and he has to pay almost $250,000 to the CRA. However, had Henry named his spouse or any financially dependent child as his beneficiary, then the entire amount of his RSP can be rolled over to them without paying any taxes. So you see, as counterintuitive as it might sound, the worst thing you can have is to retire with too much money in your RSP. If there's no exit strategy, aka no proper retirement planning, there's really a high chance that you have to pay more taxes, getting less government benefits, and live in a big regret for the rest of your life. So I highly recommend doing the following steps. Number 1, if you're in your 20s, 30s, or even in your early 40s, I think RSP is a great tool to have. It helps you to save more taxes and create that long-term saving habit. However, if you're in your late 40s to close to retirement age, I highly recommend to check your RSP strategy. Does it make sense to still put money into your RSP? Or does it make more sense to focus on the other accounts such as the tax-free saving? Number 2, to understand what kind of retirement income you will have when you retire. Are you solely depending on your RSP? Or do you have other income such as rental income, pension plan, and etc.? You see, when you have multiple income streams, then you have a lot of flexibility to choose when is the best time to make the RSP withdrawals. Number 3, if you do need to withdraw a large amount from the RSP, an effective way is to break it down into small chunks. For example, instead of a lump sum of $20,000 withdrawal and you only get $14,000 after the withholding tax, you can do 4 times of $5,000 at a 10% withholding tax. Then the CRA will only withhold $2,000 instead. And lastly, if you don't have the time to think about any of the above, then I highly recommend you to work with an advisor to really sit down and discuss your retirement plan. Do you have enough to be on track with your dream retirement? Should you start withdrawing your RSP now or wait until 5 years later? Trying to find the right balance to maximize your retirement benefits will definitely require some planning. Hey, if you know someone who is heading to their retirement but have questions about their RSP, please share this video with them so they are also aware of this sticky situation. The best retirement strategy is to begin the planning 10 years before the actual retirement. What do you think about this video? Is there something that you didn't know before? Please let me know in the comment section below. This is Thomas. If you want to learn how money works and how you can work with money, then I will see you next week. Bye guys.